I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, April 4th, 2022, and we are live. Today is the 54th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, so I posted a couple of articles dealing with that today on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. We know also that the U.S. Supreme Court confirmation hearing of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson advanced today a procedural vote on the Senate floor after there was a deadlock in the Senate Judiciary Committee, an 11-11 deadlock in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We're going to talk about that later on in the show, but in the first segment of the show, we're going to be joined by one of our great Grandmaster Scholar Warriors and one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who used to be the chair of the Black Studies Department at City College in New York. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries is going to be here in Detroit, April 30th through May 1st, 2022, for the One Africa Power and Unity Conference, the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. You've heard me talk about that before here on the show. And this is put on by Brother Taki Grant and Sister Felicia, who were the producers of the film Hapi, the role of African civilization in development of the role of African civilization in development of economics. So we're going to be joined by Dr. Leonard Jeffries here in just a minute. Share this broadcast on your Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live also. And do we have Dr. J on the line? All right. Okay. All right. Stand by, Dr. Jeffries. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. All right. So we want to welcome back to the African History Network show one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors and one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Hotep, brother, how you doing today? Dr. Jeffries, are you there?
Oh, I'm doing reasonably well. You know, at 85, I'm still alive.
Yes.
And I'm not about any jive. I got to do what I have to do with the time that I got.
Right.
And then I'll join the great ancestral realm. It's always good to hear from you, knowing that you're still carrying out your mission and your work.
Yes.
And so appreciate you and hope you will continue to be a beacon of light.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. And we hope the same for you as well, man. So we've learned an immeasurable number of knowledge from you over the years, Dr. J. But I know you and your wife, Dr. Rosin Jeffries, are going to be here in Detroit for the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. So, and that's taking place at the Doubletree Hotel in downtown Detroit, April 30th and May 1st. So I know you're going to be doing a presentation there. So give us some background information. Tell us, what is this conference about and what are you going to be speaking on?
Well, there's an enormous history that we have to grab a hold of and make it work for us. And in that history, you see the transformation of African peoples from in a period of the so-called European history, people not even worthy of the human relationship. And so enslavement was imposed upon us. Colonialism was imposed upon us.
Right.
And the European had the audacity to claim our great achievements as his own. And so we were left holding the bag of enslavement and colonialism. Fortunately, African peoples began to wake up, particularly after World War and they began to organize themselves and began to see Africa in its multiplicity, but as one mass of African moving together. So in 1945, and I was born in 1937, so I was just a youngster. But one of the great moments in our history was the meeting of the leadership around our world in 1945 for the Pan-African Conference. And so the theme of my presentations will be Pan-Africanism or perish, reparations now, and African Renaissance forever.
Yes.
And so those three things I intend to lay out whenever I get a chance to present or even talk to people. That 1945 conference involved an array of African leaders from different perspectives and different views on things, but they found a formula for unity. And so you had a W.E.B. Du Bois as the leader for the conference. And under him were other great Africans, such as George Padmore from South America and the islands of the Caribbean and whatnot. And so Marcus Garvey's wife was there, and Nkrumah was the secretary of the conference. And so you had Ross McConnell from Guyana, that's South America, and great works were produced by these brothers. Yes. Padmore, for example, was a world leader. He was the leading black person in the Comintern. That's the Russian communist party leadership. But he began to look at that leadership and what it meant, and he realized the communism that was being presented was white nationalism, white Russian nationalism. So he has a great book in outlining the conference and the activities going on at that time in the world, and it's called Pan-Africanism or Communism. And he, having been deep in the communist situation, said it's clearly for black people a question of Pan-Africanism. That's the unity, the one Africa consciousness that we had to reach for. And that doesn't mean you can't have different views on how economics, politics, and culture should be.
Right.
And that you may have a view that we need to control capitalism and make it work, not in exploitation of black folks, but work for black folks. And so one of the great leaders of the time, his great work was Capitalism or Slavery. Eric Williams, who eventually became the leader of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, Paul,
and in fact,
hold it right there, Dr. J. We're coming up on a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to pick up on Eric Williams, Slavery or Capitalism. And also, I want we're talking about the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. We're going to give you information about that, how to register for it. But also in the confirmation hearings of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, your name came up, and I called you about that. We're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. Okay, stand by, Dr. J.
Yes.
All right, you listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We're speaking with one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. We'll be back in a few minutes.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
All right, Hotep, everybody. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I was speaking with Dr. Leonard Jeffries on my radio show on 910 AM Superstation WFDF, and we were having some technical difficulties. And we were talking about the Power in One Unity Conference coming up here in Detroit. It's going to be Saturday, August 30th, and Sunday, May 1st, 2022. But we were also talking about Malcolm X. We were talking about Dr. King, but we were also talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson in the confirmation hearing of Ketanji Brown Jackson as well. Okay, and his name came up during the confirmation hearing, so I'm going to bring him on here in a few minutes. He should be calling in right now. I just got off the phone with him. Restream was acting up on me tonight. It broadcasted the first 8 or 9 minutes of the show and my interview with him, and then Restream went out. I got disconnected from Restream and have not been able to get back on and have not been able to broadcast anymore on Restream after I just paid the bill. Okay, so we're waiting on Dr. J to call. Here he is right here. Okay, Dr. Jeffries, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So very quickly here, because I know you have to run and I have to run also. So we know you're going to be here in Detroit for the One Africa Power in Unity Conference, Saturday, April 30th through Sunday, May 1st, 2022. This is taking place at the Doubletree Hotel. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries will be one of our esteemed scholars who will be speaking there, as well as Professor James Small and Dr. Jeffries' wife, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries. You have Asar Imhotep, Mfudushi Jehutimans, Dr. Theophil Obinga, Dr. Malefi Keti Asante, and others, Dr. Chike Akua, and others. So,
yes.
Dr. J, you were giving us a lot of history, and then you started talking about Malcolm X as well, right? Just briefly, just recap what you were saying about Malcolm X. And you were talking about Malcolm and the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and then also we commemorate the assassination of Dr. King today as well, April 4th, 1968. This is the 54th anniversary of his assassination. So just give us a brief synopsis of what you were saying about Malcolm X.
Well, what most people don't realize, that Malcolm, even though he was removed from us too soon, he played an important role in the unity of African nations. They were meeting, trying to figure out how can we pull all these various nations together, and they were meeting in, they came up with a Organization of African Unity, the OAU, and
right.
He had a chance to participate in it because he happened to be in Cairo, coming back from Mecca, and also visiting on the Hajj, and then visiting Cairo. And some of the leaders of the conference that set up this organization were there. And so he was inspired by the African continental leaders finding a unity formula. He said, we as African Americans and African Caribbean people need to do the same thing. So he came up with his advisors of the OAAU, the Organization of African American Unity. And so we see Malcolm as a revolutionary. He certainly was, and as a fighter who gave his life. And he was one of our great warriors, but he also was one of our great thinkers. And he was able to think through these ideas. And so, and to have a king who was able to envision the struggle in the South, which looked like it was not going to be successful because there's so many obstacles, but he led our people to struggle in the South and shake things up, and Malcolm led our people in the urban areas of the North to shake things up. So he's had an experience in Detroit, of course, in New York and other parts. So he has left us a legacy. We need to study these brothers and sisters and their legacy. And he was a family with Garvey foundations, his mother and father, a family that had the African American foundation, but also the Caribbean. His mother was from the Caribbean. So we have to see Malcolm as a combination, a composite of our family structures, and Garvey and others as composites, and even W.E.B. Du Bois represents that, but Paul Robeson and other leaders that we really don't even consider are part of the mix, but they are. Paul Robeson was a giant. He was a great athlete. He was an All-American football star, but he was such a presence. And then when they tried to crush him, he wrote a book, Here I Stand. And so he stood on principle. And so we have to be able to take these brothers and these sisters and see how they worked their magic. They fought together. They fought with the family support. They fought with, and Nkrumah, for example, he went to school in America. He went to Lincoln University. So he had met some of the scholars and the leaders of our organization. Dr. John Henry Clark and others met him when he visited, and Nkrumah Philpott, a good friend of ours, would drive up from Washington and take him back to Washington. And there he met the Africans at Howard University, and including Ralph Bunche, who was a leader then, and Hansberry, etc. And then that would be, he'd go to Philadelphia, and that's the legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois is very strong in Philadelphia. Then he'd go to Howard, and he'd get that legacy coming out of those brothers who are awakening. And then the next weekend he would come to New York, and he would go to the Harlem History Club. He would go to the teaching sessions that Dr. Clark went through, etc. So the consciousness of Nkrumah to be a Pan-Africanist was encouraged by his experience in America. So when he got back and he led the nation in 57 to independence, just as Haile Selassie was achieving a new consciousness in Ethiopia and new plans for a modern nation, Nkrumah had plans for a leadership role in the African independence movements, etc. But he said no nation in Africa is free until all of the nations are free. So the independence of Ghana was just the beginning. It was the first step in this great march toward freedom. The assassination of Martin Luther King was so powerful that when he left us, people all over the nation spoke up and took action. So that we have to move past some of our limited thrusts into these thrusts that help us build. It's a part of our sacred mission to build for the future. And so I'm glad that we're meeting with our brothers and sisters. Some people may not be able to come because some of them are tied up, but enough of us will be there to make it a great moment. And I hope that people who can hear me coming from Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Akron and Youngstown, etc., come on and join the family. This is an important historical moment, and we have to bring forth as many of our people who are willing to grow and develop and step into this sacred mission full blast. And the books are there, the tapes are there, the photos are there. I have a beautiful photo that was blown up and given to me. It was taken, I'm looking at the one that's in the study here, and it's Malcolm wearing African robe top, and he's got his famous finger to his eye, and you can see his rings, etc. But that was done by Alice Wyndham, who was with Maya Angelou and others meeting with Malcolm as he was making his tour through Africa. I was actually with them at that time, but I had another greater responsibility. I was in charge of the Crossroads Africa groups in all of West Africa, so that I had to take care of that responsibility. And unfortunately, a Canadian member of one of our building a school, and he died of malaria. And so his family said he was Canadian, and his family said he loved Africa so that they wanted him cremated and buried in Africa. I had to go, when we learned of his death from malaria, I had to go to the Corlebu University morgue and open up all these vaults to see whether I could find a vault that was empty to put his remains in. So I had super responsibility. I couldn't worry about shaking and giving a big hug to Malcolm. But fortunately, after he made his transition, we have honored him. Brother Smalls has been key, linking us to Malcolm and his tradition, and Dr. Betty Shabazz bonded with us in an enormous way. And so it's about family. It's about the family at all levels, including the ancestral family,
right,
and the family of the yet-to-be-born. And we have to lay the foundation for all of this to work to our benefit. So that's why these are marvelous times for us with our eyes open, and marvelous responsibilities have fallen on our shoulders. And but we will win. It's clear. I mean, the leadership of Africa and the Caribbean and Brazil and other places are clearly ready. I had a chance to go with our group. Every few years we go to Brazil,
right,
and you marvelous at the great beauty of Brazil, the great city Rio de Janeiro, and it's the largest black populated land in the world, but it's also one of the richest pieces of real estate on the planet, and it has this beautiful. The Italian Catholic population gave this Jesus statue to Rio, and it's placed up on the hill so you can overlook the bay. But the beautiful thing about African history is that Jesus the Redeemer overlooking Rio de Janeiro, a huge statue, is on a pedestal. And I've gone there every few years. We would go to Brazil, and one year that I went in 2003, and I took my nephew, Dr. Hassan, and his wife, who's a medical doctor, and her mother, who's a medical doctor. I took 10 people to Brazil, and it was at that time that the pedestal was opened, and Jesus the Redeemer is standing on the shrine of the Black Madonna, Brazil. And so
right,
we have to understand that Black Madonna Czestochowa that came out of Poland was the same Black Madonna that the Pope worshipped. The popes worshipped, and when the Pope John Paul II, he comes out of Poland, and he appreciated it. He also was able to, when he passed on, they had an Africanized funeral in the courtyard of the Pillared Temple of the Vatican, and the tallest thing is the Tekken, the symbol of rebirth and resurrection that comes directly out of the Nile. And the ceremonial burial was within coffins, a double coffin, as they did in some of the burial practices of our great Nile Valley cultures. So happy is the key, and we're talking about being really happy, glad to be alive and well, and happy is the name of the Nile Valley that our brother and sister, and I have to give them their kudos. You have Brother Taki and you have our sister who have worked together to make sure these things work. And so join Felicia. Us, Sister Felicia, She's a queen, a young queen mother. She's there to help my wife as in an unbelievable way. She's got 2 boys that she's raising, and I told her, make sure they follow your strong counsel, but if they don't, I got something for them down in the library downstairs, and I showed her the whip that I use in classrooms, and some of the students said, does he really have a whip? And then I said, yes. I pulled it out from my desk, and I snapped it. Boom. You all get out of order. The whip will be in play. And so she is doing wonderful work, and he, of course, has given me trips to the Nile, the likes of which I couldn't, I have to explain, and I will explain, and it has been written up, but Taki has been a blessing, and she has been an extraordinary force of strength, knows how to handle the computers and business, and knows how to do it with a smile, and knows how to act as if she's innocent, some of this knowledge coming to her for the first time. And in many instances it is, because people are bringing forth their work and whatnot. And so she had a fantastic taping with Dr. Malana Karanga. And he has made such a fantastic contribution, and she was there to express how it impacted on her, to express love and affection for his story. And so we have to put these stories together, and that is the key. That African Renaissance standing there at Senegal, at the door, opening up the way to the New World, and that linkage that Dr. Diop talked about. I'll be talking about that in my presentation. That he said that the rise of African greatness was going to come from the West and then bounce back to the East, back to Africa, and that's what has happened. And I'll be reading his testimony to that effect. It'll be the first time that it's been read like that, so that please come, bring your family, introduce your family to some of this knowledge, and we give thanks that we're here in the middle of the den of the beast going crazy before us, blowing up children and blowing up this and that. And this craziness we've got to put our strength to the wheel and make sure we roll this craziness out of the way and let the African light shine for the human family.
Hey, Doc, before we get out of here, and once again, everybody, this is we'll have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register there. The One Africa Power and Unity Conference, Saturday, April 30th through Sunday, May 1st, 2022. This is at the Doubletree Hotel in downtown Detroit. I'll be there as well, and I'll have a vendor table. I may be speaking. I'm not sure yet, but I live right near the hotel. I live in downtown Detroit. During the confirmation hearings of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, your name came up from punk-ass Senator Lindsey Graham, and I called you, and your phone was your voicemail was full, but he was talking about the Harvard speech. I think that was 1992. He was talking about the Harvard speech that you gave, and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. She was a member of the Black Student Union at the time, and I think also a law organization. She did not attend the lecture that you gave, but Senator Lindsey Graham called you anti-Semitic, and then he said that first of all, he didn't call you Dr. Leonard Jeffries. He called you Mr. Jeffries. And then he said, no,
he didn't even put the Mr. He just said Leonard Jeffries. That was
he
to make me a non-person, but I'm more than a non-person, and there's nothing they can do.
He just said Mr. Jeffries. He just said Mr. Yes. He didn't call you Leonard Jeffries. He just said Mr. Jeffries. Okay. Yeah. And then he said I think he's the uncle of Hakeem Jeffries. Okay. He had to throw that in there. But talk about what was all this about, and what was the Harvard speech about?
Well, the Harvard speech will be available at Detroit. I will bring 100 of the tapes of the Harvard speech and other things, because we have to raise money for these archives that we have here. But the Harvard speech was about the curriculum of inclusion. We have been asked to be the head of a task force to include in the curriculum of the state of New York, the real history of our people. And so that work spread around, and so the students in various universities, I've spoken to several hundred universities around the world, the students would call us to come in to speak for a Black History program or another activity such as that. And so I said yes, I would be glad to. The young fellow who called was one of the student leaders of the student government, and they had voted me to come to speak, and there was a little honorarium. Some of the Jewish students came to the student meeting, and they said, we don't want Jeffries here. Now, here you talk about freedom of speech, and they don't want a person to speak. So, of course, the Black students responded and said, no, we've made our decision. He's coming. And then the students came back in greater force and said, well, he can come, but he does not get an honorarium. We vote down him getting an honorarium. So the Black students began to panic. They called and they said, Dr. J, they cut off the honor. I said, do not worry about an honorarium. I will pay you to come to Harvard. Just keep the invitation open, and that's what they did. And it was marvelous. And they had 400 African-American students, African-Caribbean students from those great universities in New England, and they were sitting in front. And then when I came, they had hung me in effigy outside of it was cold, but they had a fire, and they were burning me in the fire. And so we have that on film, too. And then my brother and I, and he's my bodyguard. He's not just my younger brother. He's my spiritual partner in so many ways. We walked in the door, and the dean, Epps, was glad to see me, and the white dean of the college was glad to see me, and we have it all on film. And we took off our heavy coats and whatnot, and they said, we're ready to go. And I said, I'm ready to go, too. So we went into the speech. The dean, the white dean now, an older man, said he was proud to announce that Dr. Leonard Jeffries is here to speak to our student body. I'm proud to welcome him here and introduce him because 30 years ago on the same stage, I introduced Malcolm X.
Right. Wow.
And with that spirit, we went out and challenged them. And, of course, we had first, I don't do anything without a libation. And so I told the students that I was glad to be here, but before we do anything serious in the African tradition, we acknowledge the ancestors. And when I go into my libation, that calls upon other spiritual forces to join me. And 400 Black students in front, I told them, in the tradition, you stand in reverence when a serious libation is poured. And these Black students got up. That immediately separated them from the 1,000 white students that was in the balcony in the loge. And then I just preached to my people, raised them up like they have never been raised. My brother was there passing out the books to me as I gave my presentation. My brother was in such sync. He could reach in the bag and pull out the Jews of Amsterdam. He'd pull out slavery, this and that. And so it's something that people who want to understand what this struggle is all about need to get a hold of a copy of it, and it will also help us raise money for Taki and Felicia and their program. It will also help me cover some expenses that we have in trying to get our archives ready to donate them to one of the historical Black institutions. And we just got notice from Africa that they are plans for a museum in Africa. And it will be modern, and the brother, one of the leaders, is coming to America to sit down with us. So this is real. This is not Memorex. This is real African building for eternity. And you need to be a part of it no matter where you are, and get some of your family that may be trying to watch the ball games to say the ball game is important. Let's spend a few serious moments with this knowledge, this transformative knowledge, this resurrective.
Absolutely. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina called you anti-Semitic during the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings. Now, I've known you for a number of years now. Weren't you the president of a Jewish fraternity when you were in college?
The only fraternity at Lafayette College, the only Jewish fraternity at Lafayette College was Pi Lambda Phi, and it was a national fraternity. And when, in order to, Lafayette didn't have enough dormitories and whatnot, so they rushed. It was unusual. They rushed you to get into the fraternities in the first week. You come up a week early, and so they have what they call a rush, and then the fraternities have a chance to get pledges, and they can eat at the fraternity. So I wasn't interested in the fraternity. I went to Lafayette College because one of my childhood buddies, Sonny Green, from the village in Newark, he was there as a student, and I was accepted into all these Ivy League schools, including Rutgers, Penn, and Colgate, and whatnot, Amherst. But I went where I had an African partner from the streets of Newark, from the lots of Newark, from the doo-bop and all the stuff that we used to play in stickball and whatnot. Sonny Green was there. He did not finish because he got sick, but I was able to finish, and they elected me put me up for election in the freshman class election, and I was elected the freshman class secretary. Right. Then they put me up in the next year as a leader in the fraternity. I became the vice president of fraternity, and then in the third year, I was the president of the fraternity. And they were very proud to have this young black man with some class and some talent and with some wisdom to be the leader. And in fact, when they wanted to question that, he really couldn't have been the president, so they found one of my fraternity brothers, and Michael, and I'm not going to say his last name, but he was in charge of the Federal Reserve of Chicago. And they asked him, was this Jeffries really the president? And he said yes, he was the best of us. He was our leader. Now, only Greenspan in New York, head of the Federal Reserve in New York, had a greater position economically than him. And
Alex Greenspan. Alan Greenspan.
Yeah. And so I have not hesitated to raise questions about Jews and Catholics and African leaders, even when I had to raise questions about them. So this thing of being anti-Semitic, it will be used, and it has been used, and I'm sure it's going to be used as a scare tactic. But the reality is that everybody was involved in our enslavement, including the Pope in Rome. Yes. And so that when the rich families of Europe began to quest for wealth and whatnot, they bonded and formed the trading companies, the Dutch West Indian Company, the English Company, the Swedish Company, the Danish Company. These are all, the Royal African Company. These are all slave trading companies set up by European royalty. And Jews were involved. Christians were involved. The Pope was involved. The greatest minds and the greatest successful individuals of Europe was involved. That's why we have to know the history. I certainly know it. I lived it. And beautifully, I had a chance to study in Europe 2 times. I spent in Europe, and in Switzerland, I was studying in French. The first American to pass the exams in 15 years. I don't take no backseat to nobody when it comes to African culture, when it comes to Caribbean and related cultures in Brazil and South America, when it comes to the island of the Pacific, when it comes to Africa, islands of the Indian Ocean, Madagascar, the Seychelles. I've been there. Africans have reached out, invited me everywhere, and they've made me chief, not because they felt I was good looking or I could bring them some money. They read my spirit. Chief among the Ashanti and the Fanti, chief among the Bawale, Shekinah Diop and others brought me into their world and their realm. And so those are the experiences that I wish to share, my wife and I. And she is such a talent in terms of experience. She first went to Africa in 1960. She went before I did, before I met her. In fact, I met her when I went in 61, and she was there with several important young ladies in order to get the experience of the new group that went. And that group of important women that were there to meet the new Crossroads group included Marion Wright.
Yeah, Edelman.
Marion Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Included the Isabel, the daughter of my buddy, because he was in Isabel Johnston. She is the mother-in-law of our sister in Ohio who wrote the book on the prison system, and so.
Oh, you're talking about Michelle Alexander, the new Jim Crow.
Michelle Alexander, her mother-in-law was there, and they were all anxious to go to hear what the report was because they were going the next year, and so Marion Wright Anderson's father. Either father or brother, was the head of the church that Hakeem and Hassan, one of the biggest churches in Brooklyn and in Black America. Reverend Wright, not our Reverend Wright in Chicago, but Reverend Wright in New York. And Marion Wright Edelman was able to purchase the land that Alex Haley grew up in.
Right.
And so she turned it into a retreat for young people. And my cousin, my nephew Hassan, the Morehouse graduate, he would speak in the summers there. So, get the family business straight, and we're on our way. The wealth that we create, we can use to raise our communities. We can use to bond with other wealth in the Caribbean and in South America and all over the islands of the Pacific even. My wife teaches a course that is targeted for the Koreans and the South Americans and the Chinese. It's out of the School of Visual Arts. They have a campus in Asia.
Okay.
And so she, thanks to Felicia, she's able to process connected. And Felicia is there to make sure. Felicia is just so wonderful. She just comes on time. She gets her stuff done, and then she goes and takes care of heavy other business. She's really a mover and a shaker, and looking good. She had her earrings on the other day, just flashing them around. I said, "Go on, sisters, do your thing." So join us, folks. Join us. You will not lose with the stuff we use.
Exactly. So this is coming up. The One Africa Power and Unity Conference is coming up Saturday, April 30th through Sunday, May 1st, 2022 at the DoubleTree Hotel in downtown Detroit. Okay. You can visit. We'll have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register there, but also at hapifilm.com, HAPI, hapifilm.com. You can register also. They have tickets there, and they have vendor space as well. Okay, so it'll be Dr. Leonard Jeffries, his wife, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries, Professor Jane Small. There'll be a lecture from Dr. Maulana Karenga, Dr. Susan Tata, Mfudushi Jehutimas, Asar Imhotep, Dr. Theophil Obinga, Dr. Malefi Keti Asante, Jabari Osazi, Dr. Chike Akua, and others. Okay, and I'll be there as well, and I'll have a vendor space there. I'm not sure if I'm speaking yet. Okay, Dr. J, look, we know you have to leave. We know you have to get out of here. Let people know how they can get in contact with you. They want you to do a lecture, teach a class, whatever. How can people get in contact with you?
Yes, they can. We have my home phone here. The landline is 201-837-1355. And the cell phone is 201-668-7973. That's not the cell. Switch it around. That last number is the landline, 201-668-7973. And then the other number is the 201-837-1355.
Okay. All right. And then how can...
And then I'm retired. I've been retired for many years, so you can call at any time. But please, not the first thing in the morning.
Right.
People from overseas, from Nigeria, Ghana, they call, and I say, goodness, call me later,
Right.
But it's family calling. It's people we've adopted, people who've adopted us. One Babalao, he's the one who brought protection for me when we had the court case, and in New York court, and we won that case. We won $400,000, and they had to pay millions of dollars in our court fees. Mm-hmm. So we've gone to the mountaintop, and we've accepted their challenge, and beat them back every damn time.
Right, exactly. Now, how can people buy your lectures? Maybe those that can't make it to Detroit to get the Harvard speech, or they want to get other lectures from you. How can they support you? How can they buy those lectures?
We'll have a brother Akili, Charles Mitchell. He's one of our Sons of Africa, and yes. We'll set up something. My cousin, who for years had been having the tapes for sale at every big conference we went to, he already has tapes ready for people to purchase. We'll get that message out to them, to folks. But it's serious. You need the Harvard speech. Nobody has done anything like that. We did at Harvard. And get the Koch tape. This is a tape that Koch himself put in front of me when we were in his office, my brother and I. And we took him to the mat and gave him a beating. And he liked
Former
it.
mayor of New York. Former mayor of New York.
Former mayor who had told the President of the United States, coming up out of Georgia, that if you don't do right by Israel, we don't want you to come to New York. Mm-hmm. That's the president who wanted me to come down to his office. I said, no, you come up to mine because the books and stuff are here. I got 50 books of the Jewish involvement in slavery. And I'm going to increase that to 100 books. They will still put that mess out there. 100 books. Jonathan Israels has 4 or 5 books on the Jewish involvement in slavery in Europe. The Rothschilds, one of the greatest financial fortunes in the Jewish world community, combined to send 5 of their relatives to different. So you had the Rothschilds of Austria, the Rothschilds of Germany, the Rothschilds of France, the Rothschilds of England. And that was a banking community. And what did they help finance? They helped finance the slave trade.
Right.
And what did they link up with? European money. For example, when the French had the Suez Canal up for sale, the financial money coming from the English sources wanted to purchase the canal, and they did. And so the person who was a major player, he couldn't go to Parliament and ask them for 10 million pounds and whatnot to purchase the canal, but he was able to go to the Rothschilds and without going to Parliament get the money to purchase the Suez Canal for the English. So you have the Rhodes Scholars, Cecil Rhodes, combined with the Rothschild, to be able to link Cairo to the Cape, where the diamonds and golds are. I mean, they need to go away, way away from me. I have too much of that history and have been through it, lived it. And so there's no need to be talking about it. Cecil Rhodes formed a committee of 10 to control the diamonds and gold of South Africa. And he created that brotherhood called the Rhodes Scholar to create other imperialistic-minded young men who could be brought into their society, their secret society.
Yes, yes. All right, Dr. J, well, look, we're going to let you get out of here, and we'll see you in Detroit, okay, brother?
All right, now, carry on. Appreciate you giving me a chance to express
no problem.
myself. Hotep, peace.
No problem. Hotep to you and the family.
P.
Okay, brother, peace. Santi Sana. All right, everybody, that was one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and he'll be here in Detroit for the One Africa Power and Unity Conference, okay? And we'll have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register there. Also at HapiFilm.com also. If you like this type of information, you can support us. Support the African History Network show, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Normally we're broadcasting on Restream, Facebook and YouTube through Restream, and I was broadcasting the interview tonight and broadcasting my radio show on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. And after about 10 minutes, the broadcast on Facebook and everything, we got kicked out of it on Restream. So we went through and did the rest of the interview, but I called Dr. J. I said, look, I want to set it up on Blog Talk Radio, have you come on and finish talking, because there was some information that we were not able to discuss and capture the way I wanted to. So we have it here on Blog Talk Radio. All right. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. And basically we have them all on demand now. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Those are 10-week online classes. As soon as you register, we have 9 weeks of the classes you can watch on demand. So those classes are on sale right now, $60, regularly $130. We have a bundle pack. You can get both classes for $100. And you can once you register for it, you have full access to it. So even a year from now, 2 years from now, you can still watch the entire course, okay? And you can support us also through Cash App and PayPal. We have the information on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And the African History Network shows on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. And I broadcast on Facebook and YouTube when we're on live also. All right. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever.